Welcome to the Westside Investors Network, WIN, your community of investing knowledge for growth. This is the Real Estate Professionals Investing Podcast for real estate professionals by real estate professionals. This show is focused on the next step in your career, investing. Thank you for listening, and please, if you like our content, rate us on your podcast provider. Just a quick disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are for educational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any shares or securities, make or consider any investments, or take any other action.
Welcome back to another episode of the Deal Deep Dive segment on the Westside Investors Network podcast. I'm your host, Trent Werner. In this segment, our featured guests will share their unique stories on a specific deal they've invested in. We will dive deep into finding the deal, financing the deal, writing an offer, and the due diligence. Do us a solid and smash that subscribe button, leave us a rating, and share this episode. And now, let's dive deep. Welcome back to the Westside Investors Network podcast. I am your host, Trent Werner. On today's Deal Deep Dive episode, we are joined by Brent Bowers with the Land Sharks. Brent is a land investment expert as well as coach and has a community at thelandsharks.com. Today, we're going to talk about Brent's career starting when he was still active in the military to now doing this full time for the last 7-8 years. Brent's going to talk about a deal in Florida that they're making $95,000 on and wholesaling it to the neighbor of the property that they're under contract to purchase. Now let's welcome Brent Bowers. All right, Brent Bowers is joining the Westside Investors Network podcast today. I am stoked to hear about land deals. We're going to talk about one in Florida specifically. But before we do that, I'd love to hear more about Brent Bowers and how the Land Sharks came about.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, Trent, on the Westside Investors podcast. I like the name. So I'll tell you how the Land Sharks came about is I got out of the military in 2018 and I had built a passive income of almost 10 grand a month. And this is a guy that I was making like 4,500 a month. And I was working like, 12, 13, 14 hour days, preparing for my third combat deployment. If anybody knows anything about the military is you work some long, crazy hours most of the time if you're on a rapid deployment schedule. So I had a lot of time on my hands when I got out of the military, May 2018. And this thing called Parkinson's Law set in. The time will expand. Basically, the task will expand with the time you give it. So I had a lot of time on my hands. So I was like, I got to do some other things. So I started going on coffee appointments and talking to people about what I was doing because people were hitting me up from my meetup that I started, asking me how to flip vacant raw land. And I was having all these appointments and no one was doing anything with it. So until I had a little shift, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm gonna start charging for this. So I started charging people and they started doing things with it. It was crazy. It's like libraries are free, but no one goes to them. But we spend all this money on Audible and buying books off Amazon. And we read it because we spent money on it, right? Even if it's $12. So that's kind of how the Land Sharks was born. Fast forward many years later, I've got multiple community members just doing tremendous amounts of deals. I say this humbly now, but there's a lot of them doing way better in land than I am.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I didn't think so at first, though. With my competitive nature, I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not doing a $2 million land deal? And I go out there and break barriers. It's like the Roger Bannister, what was it, 5-minute mile? After he broke it, other people started breaking that record. I'm seeing people doing even faster than that. So it's like if I have a land shark that does 700K on a land deal, I'm like, heck, why don't I go and try that? So I learn from them just as much as they learn from me.
And did you start flipping land when you were still in the military actively?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I sure did. That's how I built that passive income of roughly $9,800 a month.
Awesome. And how were you able to do that? I know you said you were on a rapid deployment schedule. How were you able to facilitate everything going on at one time?
It was crazy. I was getting up at like 4 a.m. And I hadn't deployed yet. We were training to do it. And I had to be on base to do physical training at 6 p.m. So I would use that 2 hours to really work on my business. And then I'd try and take little lunch breaks or breaks during the day to answer phone calls from sellers and buyers. And then at nighttime, after we put the newborn baby to bed, I'd go back down in the basement and keep working. it was really burning the candle at both ends. But I had so much energy because, like, yes, the motivation was drained really quickly. I was a couple weeks, I was no longer motivated to do it, but I put systems in place that it happened with or without me, and I had to keep obviously oiling those gears. But I had a huge why. I wanted to get out of the military. I was tired of being away from home all the time.
Okay. And what drove you to the land flipping side of real estate? I mean, there's so many different avenues people can take when it comes to real estate. What attracted you to land flipping specifically?
Yeah, there's a million different ways you can go. And I already had rental properties that were kind of dragging me down. It was costing me a lot of money to have those. So that was where my discretionary income from the military was going. I had wholesaled houses, I had flipped a couple houses, and I heard a guy on a podcast just like this sharing knowledge about how he was like doubling and tripling and quadrupling his money overnight on land deals. And I was like, I've never made money fast in real estate. If that's the case, then I need to literally just take action. So I did. That evening, I started immediately mailing landowners.
Okay. And we've had someone else on the show talking about land flipping. When it came to finding the owners, how did you go about getting the people to mail to?
Yeah, in the beginning, I was just going to the county and getting their scanned in PDF that I had to plug in numbers like manually. And I thank God I found a virtual assistant on Upwork for like $5 an hour to help me with that, because if it was up to me, it wouldn't have happened. But she was super sweet. Joanna is her name. I actually work with her sister now. She plugged all those numbers into the county assessor's website and got me all the data, turned it into a nice little Excel spreadsheet. That's how we did it in the beginning. Now there's way easier ways now. If anybody wants to get a free trial to PropStream, a place where we can go and just pull this data super easy. It's the landsharks.com. Like, I didn't know about these things in the beginning. I was just taking massive action.
Right. I was going to say, over the years, I'm sure you've become more efficient, and you know, the first way you did it wasn't the most efficient, but you were taking action, and that's something that I think a lot of people fail at when it comes to real estate that haven't even gotten into real estate. Is they sit there and think about all the different things that could happen, could go wrong, could go right, and the biggest piece of that is action, and it never happens. So I
Yeah, it's
applaud you
true.
for, it might have been hard, but you at least took action right out of the gate, and look where it's got you, which is awesome.
I must say there wasn't much thinking going on at all. It was like, okay, what can I do to make a dollar in real estate? And, like, it was crazy some of the stuff I bought in the beginning, like, and either assigned my contract or flipped. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Ignorance is bliss at times, right?
Yeah.
So now you're focusing on what type of land deal specifically? Do you have a niche in the land deal space, or is it anything that makes a dollar?
Yeah, no, it's pretty simple. I like to really focus on the vacant residential land. That can include some agriculture parcels, but here's the main thing. Not sorry about that. Not a lot of commercial. Here's the main thing. I want to see other land selling in the area. That way I know what it's worth. Like, what are the comps telling me? Because if I'm not seeing other land selling in the area, I don't know what it's worth. I don't know what to offer. I can get it for stupid cheap, but who's to say there's a market for that or any demand for that area?
Right. So your buyers then are typically people that are going to develop the land that you're selling them.
Yeah, that's the plan for most of them. Sometimes people just buy it for like a, recreational land or hunting property. Like the deal I wanted to talk to you about today, like the guy just literally, he owns the 200 acres next door. He just wants to increase his footprint. He doesn't want the 20-acre parcel, someone owning the 20-acre parcel right next to him. He wants to just keep expanding.
Awesome. Well, I guess that leads us to the deal we're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah, yeah, let's talk about it.
So deals in Florida.
Mhm.
You kind of touched on it there. It sounds like it's 20 acres. Sounds like it's in a more rural part of Florida. Is that correct?
Yeah, it
And
is. Yep.
and I guess for this parcel, is there any ability to develop it if someone wanted to, or is it strictly
Yeah.
zoned?
Yeah, you could put two houses, or basically you can put two houses on this 20 acres. So it's considered agricultural land. And, Florida's done a really good job of trying keeping, some green area. So house per 10 acres in this area. So yeah, someone can go and develop a couple houses on it for sure. And that would actually made the land worth even more if we would have subdivided it. Like we're letting it go for super cheap right now, but it's hard to say no when you get an offer in your face while you're in the process of buying it.
Right. And how did you come about getting this lead and getting in front of the seller to make this all
Yeah.
happen?
So I'm going to showcase Chuck here because we're doing this deal together. Chuck is one of my Land Sharks community members. He's in our community, and he reached out the other day. He's like, "Brent, I got a great deal in Florida. I know you're in Florida. I'd like for you to fund it." And I was like, "Sure, let's do it together." So how we get most of our deals, how I get most of my deals, is I send out what's called land offer letters, LOLs. Basically, I like Trent. You own 30 acres in Oklahoma. I'm going to send you an LOL with an exact offer for what I could pay for that piece of land in it. If anybody from the Westside podcast wants a copy of this LOL, just go to thelandsharks.com/LOL. That's my land offer letter. You can make it your own and send it out. Obviously, run it by your real estate attorney in your state to make sure you're not breaking any rules by doing that. But that's how that deal was mailed, and it came back signed for $110,000. Lady signed it, sent it back.
So I got a question about this because I've actually, when the market was going crazy here in town, I had some buyer clients that wanted specific areas. And what I did was I was filling out offers that they weren't signed, but I was giving them exactly what the terms that they could get for their house. These weren't listed properties. They were off market in a certain area.
Yeah.
And I basically said, this is what my client's willing to offer. If you're into it, sign it. We'll sign it. Good to go.
Yep.
Do you send these LOLs signed already?
I don't sign them. No, I don't sign them because a lot of times I want to renegotiate on them. And we tried to renegotiate with this lady, but she knew she was fire selling it. She was totally cool. I mean, they're making plenty of money on it as well. They've owned it for many years. But yeah, we send them out and we have a pricing structure. We use software programs to do it. So we kind of try and automate it as much as possible. So again, it happens because the motivation with anything wears out in 2 weeks, kind of like going to the gym. The first week, you're like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm sore. Week 2, you're like, oh man, can I just sleep in this morning? But like you got to have, like, for instance, me, like when we drop the kids off in the morning, like my truck automatically drives to the gym. It's just a habit now. So we we do that in business too. But yeah, these go out. This one came back signed for 110,000. Realtors telling me we can get 12,000 an acre. So that would put us at about 249 on the list price. We were closing tomorrow to buy this land. And Chuck, man, we teach in the Land Sharks community. My partner's Chuck, to send out what we call neighbor letters. We use a software program to do it. And these neighbor letters, like Trent, you'll receive this letter saying and we do it to all the adjoining properties, even across the street. We pre-market these things. A lot of times we have buyers before we even buy the land, which is so amazing. It doesn't always happen that way. I don't want to paint a unrealistic picture for anybody. There is some work involved in this. But yeah, these letters went out, had photos of the property, explained it, said, hey, we're about to hit the market with this. If you're interested in buying it, let us know. Well, the neighbor reached out. It's like he really wanted it. We tried to negotiate a little bit, but he was a really good negotiator too. So long story short, we're going to make 95 grand here in the next week, and we don't even have to buy the property.
And now here's a word from our sponsor.
Get things done while you're on the move. Learn more about working with a virtual assistant through Offsite Professionals. It's a great way to get all the things done that you need to get done. Have freedom in your time and streamline your life by automating your business. Stop spending time on the tasks that you can delegate and start spending more time on your superpower. Call us today at 503-446-3177 or visit our website at offsiteprofessionals.com.
Uptown Syndication is now offering a syndication coaching program for you to take your real estate portfolio to the next level. This is your opportunity to have experienced syndicators, AJ and Chris Shepard, coach you on your way to controlling your real estate investing future. Our coaching program will provide you with the tools and framework needed to begin syndicating real estate in your target market. Go to uptownsyndication.com today to learn more. So And I'll get back into this, but you mentioned something about listing it for 249. When you're doing your land deals, are you typically closing on them and listing them to market? You're not trying to wholesale every single one of them?
Yeah, I used to wholesale when I didn't have any money. And trust me, that's not a knock on anybody wholesaling because I have wholesaled a lot of stuff. And I also wholesale in areas that have a massive buyers list, like certain parts of Colorado, because I've just been in those areas for so long. So I will still wholesale stuff as even and if I don't have the money for it, or it's a big deal and I don't have lenders available or my own cash available, I will absolutely wholesale these deals. But I prefer to always take the land down, to always buy if it's like a no-brainer deal and I know I'll make money even if I'm asleep at the wheel or if the market like crashes tomorrow.
Okay. So the ones that have a little bit tighter spread, those might be the ones that you would try to wholesale quicker versus ones
Yes.
that, like
Yes.
this, for example, you knew if you go to market, you're making, 120, 140K if you go to market.
Plus, another thing, I would love to have kept this land myself, you know, but if it wasn't brought to me by a partner and, he wanted to make quick money, which I don't blame him, um, I would have kept this land all day long. Absolutely kept it.
Got it. Okay. But in this situation, obviously the neighbor, responds to a letter saying, "Hey, I'm willing to pay X for it." And when you have $95,000 spread waved in your face, it's hard to hold on to that one longer than you have to.
Yeah. We could list it for 249. It might sit for a year. It could sit for a month, which it probably won't sit for a year because that was kind of the quick blowout price. But why not make, $95,000 today rather than wait for another, what, 55,000? I've never seen a business go out of business, a company go out of business making profit.
Right. Right. Interesting. And so how long does this process take from when you send out the LOL to, when you're supposed to close on it next week or this week?
This one deal, I asked Chuck, he had mailed these in December.
Okay.
And I don't want to date your podcast. I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
But this one particular deal will be at 4 months by the time we get paid on it. But it's crazy. I interview a lot of our Land Sharks community members, and I've had multiple deals where it's like from the time we mail to the time we're paid, I've seen it anywhere from like 30 days to 6 months is kind of like right there in the average. It's all over the place. It depends. Every area is different. Sometimes you get that low hanging fruit. And then I've had people reach out to me on letters I sent years ago. And they're like, "Hey, is this offer still good?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? What offer?"
Yeah.
So I look it up and I'm like, I don't know. And I'm thinking, heck yeah, it's still good. That land is appreciated so much. It happens. It's crazy.
So you'd say the average deal timeline is probably 6 months. Is that
Just call it,
include,
yeah.
does that include when you go to market with these deals?
Yeah, no, that's so just call it the average is really closer to about I don't know, 4 months. I'm saying I'm seeing anywhere from 28 days to 6 months. So just cut it down the middle for the average, just call it 3 months. But no, that's from the time we mail to the time we get paid.
Okay.
So those first couple deals I did in Colorado where I was mailing the tax delinquent list from the county, those were some fast ones. It's crazy because I sent out the postcard. Now, if you send first class mail, it gets there a little faster. But I sent out a bunch of postcards to these landowners. This is before I did the LOL method. If anybody wants a copy of that postcard, go to thelandsharks.com/postcard. I try and give it all away because I want people to do, these land deals, like this is so attainable. This is such a low barrier of entry. My first land deal was $285. That's what I paid for it. I sold that to a realtor for $5,000 and I got paid the next week. So that whole deal was probably 30 days long from the time I mailed to the time I got $5,000. And the guy that was only like, this is me back in 2016, early 2016, I was only making $4,500 a month. And I'm working like over 50-hour, 60-hour weeks. And I just made $5,000 and it took me like an hour of work. Like, well, let me be a little bit more realistic. It took me longer than that. So maybe 30 minutes talking to the seller because he was a super nice guy. I drove to the land. So it was 30 minutes from my house, 30 minutes back, and then maybe 30 minutes to go to the title company. So what is that, 2 hours?
That's a pretty good price per hour. when you when you break it down.
Oh, plus the mailing and Joanna's time. So yeah, just call it 3 or 4 hours. Even if it was 5 hours, that's $1,000 an hour. I was like, I never made $1,000 an hour. That broke my brain.
And so where, like, after that first deal that we're talking about now, where did, obviously it leads to, well, I want to do more of this, but what
I was
was your,
addicted.
yeah, what was your first thought after getting that sense of feeling or that emotion of, I just made $1,000 an hour? Where did you want to take that business? Like, how,
Holy cow.
what happened
First
after
of all, I didn't believe that was possible to keep doing that. I just realized I didn't have my first and last name on here. Yeah, I was addicted. I've got an addictive personality, by the way. I was like, let's send more. So I sent 2,000 more letters to another area. I didn't get a single. It was like grasshoppers. I did it wrong. I priced this whole thing was messed up. I think I'm sending them to the wrong address. So it's like I had the success and then I had a failure. Or maybe I put the wrong phone number. I don't know, but nothing came from that 2,000 letters. And most people would quit. Most people would quit if they don't get anything on like the first 500 letters or 1,000 letters. And I didn't talk about all the failures I had before this, by the way. And all the years I've been trying to do real estate since 2004. So finally 2016, I'm like, oh my God, I'm finally making money in this. So just do the math. Was that 12 years? So I actually was on cloud nine. I told my wife, like that land we looked at, here's a check. And it was like, I'm pretty sure we celebrated that night. You can use your imagination. But it was like, holy cow, let's keep doing this. This is my way out of the military. And I actually bought another land deal like a week later for $500. And Trent, like I was being stupid. I wasn't running due diligence. I wasn't like doing title searches for any of this stuff. I was buying them on quit claim deeds. Like I made so many mistakes. I actually wrote up a due diligence checklist. We can offer that on your show here, but like the 14 things that I screwed up on, I have it on like a PDF, just talking about all the things not to do. But I bought this thing for 500. I went and trespassed to get to the land. I had to trespass against State Park. And I'm in the military, got a top secret clearance. I'm an Army officer, like just doing stupid stuff. And then I got caught leaving the property by a state park ranger. He's like, you can't be on here. I was like, I just had to get pictures of my property, my land. He goes, I don't care what you're doing. He let me go. I had the photos though. I put them on Craigslist and I explained the whole situation. You need to get an attorney to get access to this. It was 5 acres just south of NORAD, surrounded by Colorado State Park, just to the west of Fort Carson, Colorado. That's where I was stationed. And it's beautiful country out there. I should have never sold that one either. But a guy hit me up on Craigslist the next day. He brought me $500 down and he paid me $400 a month, and for a total of $5,000. I didn't charge him any interest or anything, but that one also broke my brain because I was like, my truck payments is covered for like the next 11 months now, because my truck payment wasn't even $500 a month back then. So it's just like, it was like, holy cow, I need to keep doing these.
And that's actually a strategy that we haven't touched on, and we can, touch on it quickly, is the whole idea of closing on these deals and then selling them on contract to buyers. Do you at the Land Sharks leverage that strategy as well?
Heck yes. I love that strategy. We got roughly 79 of those things paying us. And I just bought some land just right in Daytona Beach area, Holly Hill, Florida, paid $158,000, and we sold it for $25,000 down for a total amount of $225,000. And that one, I've got a lender, a small lender that lent me $65,000. I think I put $90,000 into that. Well, I'm getting paid over almost $2,000 a month for the next 30 years on that deal. We're going to net over $100,000 on that deal. Easy.
Well, and you have the passive income stream without having to fix toilets and all the other stuff that comes with rental houses, which I think is awesome when it comes to buying and selling land. That's one thing I've always been fascinated with as a multifamily investor myself.
Yeah, I love multifamily, but I just want to be a passive investor on multifamily. So I put some land funds towards that because people are always going to need a place to live, and it's like land will eventually pay off. Most of the time I see that they pay off in 7 years, or they sell it or build on it. So I get paid off, but I love it because for the first 7 years, it's like all interest only. It's pretty much front and loaded interest. After the 7 years, it starts to pay down quick. So I'm glad they're paying me off. But yeah, they don't really ever call. I got a call this morning. My assistant handles this. Like, you got to have a good assistant. When you start doing like enough business, you need a good assistant. Like, they're like a 10x investment. So for every dollar I pay her, she makes me at least $10 because she takes this off my plate. But she's selling the land. She's actually selling the land for $6,000 down and a couple hundred more than what she's paying us. And I'm like, she's like, am I allowed to do this? And I was like, heck yeah, you can do this. Like, if you're going to keep paying me, and she's sending me the whole 6,000. I was like, heck yeah, send it. We're getting 9% from her on that one. And she's been paying for about a little over 2 years now. So yeah, pay it down quick. Let's go.
Yeah.
I want the money back.
Well, and kind of like I touched on earlier, there's so many different niches and avenues in real estate investment and making money in real estate. We're talking about land today, but even in land, there's wholesaling, they're selling it on the market, they're selling it on contract. There's so many different routes that one can take, even just in the land compartment of the overall real estate industry, which is something that I've always been fascinated with when it comes to real estate. Is there's not just one way someone can make money in real estate. There's so many different
Oh yeah,
routes
there's no
one can take.
shortage. There's
Yeah.
no shortage. There's so much abundance. I mean, I'm looking at the trees and the leaves and the grass outside the window. Like, God didn't, like, there's so much abundance. Like, so many leaves and sand and grass. It's the same thing with real estate deals. It's like I've had people say, like, aren't you afraid of this getting oversaturated? The more people I talk about this, the more people send me deals. It's crazy. Like, this is getting easier and easier and easier. I have slowed my mailing down because there's just too many deals. And I've been doing it for so long. It's like getting that pump prime. Once you prime it, you can slow it down.
Right. So it sounds like people that want to get into land investing need to reach out to you, Brent, and the rest of the land sharks at thelandsharks.com.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Heck yeah.
Is there anything that we missed talking about today?
Just say take action. You know, there's you put out so much gold here on, you know, your Westside Investors podcast. Am I saying that Westside Investors podcast? Did I get the name right?
Westside Investors Network. We call it WIN for short.
Westside Investors Network. Let me correct myself. I mean, you put out so much gold. Anybody listening to this, you got to take action. You know, just implement this stuff, because like we can't just go in education and, you know, just gathering mode. I talked to so many people for years. They've been trying to start. I was one of those people since 2004. I dabbled and I'd go take this seminar and spend $5,000 on a weekend seminar and come home on Monday, be so fired up. And then Tuesday I'd lose that motivation because I was like, oh man, what, like, oh, this is not easy. This is work. Like, we got to just consistently take those effort and get those small wins. So take action, you know, just take action.
I love it. Where can people connect with you online?
Yeah. I mean, probably the easiest is send me a Facebook or Instagram message, Brent L. Bowers. And yes, the L stands for land for sure. And Brent L. Bowers. And then I'm on TikTok too, but I don't really know how to answer messages on there. So maybe you can check out the videos, but maybe if you want to message me, hit me up on Instagram or Facebook.
Awesome. Brent, thank you so much for sharing about the Florida deal, the land sharks, and your overall, I guess you're at 20-year career at this point.
Oh, that's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, 20-year career, but the first 12 was pretty rough. Yeah, it was so rough.
Well, I appreciate your time again today, Brent, and thank you so much for sharing with our listeners and our audience. And I encourage everyone listening to this episode to go check out Brent Bowers on all his socials, as well as thelandsharks.com.
Thanks, Trent. God bless, man. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Professionals Investing Podcast on WIN, your community of investing knowledge for growth. We hope that this episode has increased your knowledge and added value to your path to freedom. If you would, please take a second to rate us so that we can get more great investors to interview. If you or someone that you know wants to be on, please visit westsideinvestors.com and fill out our form to be on the show. Thank you again and enjoy your day.